of the people think that there are only two genders. But what if there are millions living outside that box? Today, we will be discussing the lives of gender diverse and non-binary persons, and let us discuss the science behind these identities. Non-binary is an umbrella term which is used to identify persons who do not restrict themselves to the binaries of male and female as genders. Such people exist beyond labels, and certain gender diverse identities come under this umbrella term, like agender people, bigender people, genderqueer people, genderfluid persons, and many others.
What is non-binary?
Someone who doesn't feel like either a man or a woman and may feel like both, neither, or something entirely different. Some of the non-binary person also may not identify themselves with the trans binaries, that is transgender men or transgender women, as well as cis binaries, that is cisgender men and cisgender women.
What is genderqueer?
Genderqueer is a catch-along term for the persons who do not follow the traditional gender rules. They might be exploring both the femininity as well as masculinity and other gender expressions.
What is agender?
The literal term agender represents without gender. That is the person who do not identify with any of the gender.
What is genderfluid?
Persons whose gender identity might change with context and time period. They some days might feel like more masculine, some days more feminine, and some days somewhere in between.
What is demi-boy?
A person who partially feels like a boy but not entirely like a boy. They might feel agender or non-binary or mix of identities at other times. Just imagine if gender is like ice cream flavors, boys like chocolate and girls like strawberry. But what if you like vanilla? Or what if you like a mix of chocolate and blueberry? Or a mix of chocolate and strawberry? This is how exactly non-binary model works. It says the gender isn't just boy and girls. It can be a mix of flavors, and everyone mix can be different. The non-binary model says that you can be you. You can be blend of all different things. Your favorites can be something different from anyone else, and that's actually perfect for you. Judith Butler, in his book Gender Trouble, argued that gender is performative. That is, the identities are not fixed. For example, if I say you to go to a toy store, on one shelf there are racing cars for boys, on the other shelves are the dolls for girls. But what if I want to choose the toys from both the shelves? A groundbreaking survey by Trevor Project shows that 26% of the LGBTQIA+ persons self-identify as non-binary, and among them, 20% of them are still in the questioning stage. At least half of the non-binary person do not identify as transgender person either. They like to keep themselves away from the labels of cisgender and transgender. In USA, at least 8% of Gen Z population self-identify either as a transgender person or as a non-binary person, which is a huge generational shift as compared to the older generation. Non-binary people often face discrimination in bathrooms, regular settings of the society, as well as healthcare setups, adding difficulties to their well-being. A APA study linked non-binary identity to higher rates of anxiety and depression. Even it was found that those non-binary persons who were respected by most or all of the people about their pronouns, like using they or them pronouns or she or her pronouns, showed a reduction in the suicidal risk from 27% to just 10%. The non-binary model of traits argues that the gender exists on the continuum rather than two categories. That is, a person may also identify as neither male nor female, forming another cluster of gender. If you know someone who identify outside the binaries, or you yourself identify outside the binary norms and labels, then do comment us about your experiences of navigating this world in the form of a non-binary person. Most of our healthcare systems are made in the binary languages. This translates into a huge amount of discrimination, including misgendering and lack of use of pronouns for the non-binary patients in the healthcare settings. Even when a person wants to go the gender transition journey, and if they self-identify as a non-binary person, it might become very difficult for a doctor to understand their healthcare needs as well as gender transition needs. There are separate protocols to be followed for the non-binary persons to be given gender-affirmative hormone therapies. A very well-known theory, gender schema theory, suggests that identity develops through social cues, but non-binary identities try to challenge these learned schemas and do not follow the strict checklist of gender binaries. Since childhood, we are told that certain things or games are associated with boys and girls. For example, if you see in your childhood that most of the boys are playing with robots, your mind will create a folder saying that boys is equal to robots. Similarly, if you see on the TV channels most of the girls wearing pink dresses, you will associate pink color in your brain's folder as a girl's thing. But gender schema theory plays a cool role over here. It says that you can reorganize the folders whenever you want. Sometimes these folders are not correct to the every person, but gender schema theory is so cool in saying that you can reorganize these folders. For example, what if some girl also likes to play with a robot? Or what if a boy wants to wear a pink dress? A certain kind of folders you can make in your brains, like anyone can play with the robots and anyone can like the pink. So gender schema theory for non-binary identities and traits gives you the opportunity to reorganize the identity of gender as it feels true to you and yourself. Have you ever heard about trans broken arm syndrome? Just imagine, if you are a transgender or a non-binary person and you slipped on the stairs and you broke your arm, and you visit a hospital or an emergency room of a hospital, and doctor starts saying, "Oh, you broke your arm. It might be because of your gender affirming hormone therapy." But you know that hormone therapy has nothing to do with breaking an arm and slipping on the stairs. So here you see, when a doctor or a healthcare provider start associating every disease or every condition of yours with your transgender or non-binary identity, then it is predominantly known as trans broken arm syndrome. Doctors should treat each medical condition with their diagnosis and symptoms just as they will do for any other person. They should not restrict their opinions and perception about a person's gender identity while diagnosing their medical conditions. Ivan S. Maximoff proposed a gender fluidity model comparing gender fluidity to magnetism using the physics concept of quantum mechanics. Quantum physics says that a particle can exist in the superimposition form, that is, in two states, both particle as well as a wave state, until someone looks at it. Similarly, a person's gender identity, like male or female, is also a quantum state in which a person can exist in the probabilities of either both, neither both, or either male or a female. And what it means by if someone looks at you. For example, if someone calls your pronouns, if someone calls your name, that observation aligns your gender to a visible kind of role you want to play in the society for a specific gender. In magnetism, all atoms align in one direction unless someone disturbs it. That is how an iron is also turned into a magnet. Similar to magnet, a person's gender identity also aligns in a way how the external environment tries to visualize that person as or try to label that person as. Now imagine a child who uses she and her pronouns, also they and them pronouns, and sometimes also none of the pronouns. When the child is at home, the child might be comfortable in using any of the pronouns. When the child is with her best friend, the child might like to be more feminine in nature and look. But when the child is at the school in a more disciplined way, the child might like to be represented as a gender neutral person. Just like particles in different states in quantum physics, a person's gender identity can also change based on who is seeing them, who are with them, and what is their true identity which they feel from inside. Hence, the gender is fluid. Non-binary lives might be underreported and underrepresented, but they are still valid and visible and vibrant. So accept the visibility and truth of non-binary persons and try to accept them in our day-to-day lives, respect their pronouns and include them in our policies and spaces. Try to like, share and comment on your non-binary experiences or experiences of your allyship.